Good morning. I believe it is morning, everyone. Welcome to another series in the Ed Talks world. I believe this is number 6, but I'm losing track. I guess at some point when you're at 55, you probably stop saying something. But today with me is Paul Weiss. If you don't know who Paul Weiss is, he's probably the most experienced expert in the connectivity space. So Paul's opinion is going to be vital today. Last week we asked the question to Bill Quinlan, who runs Carrier, what should MSPs and VARs be doing in relative terms to connectivity? We're going to ask that from Paul. Interesting story on Paul is Paul started with us when the company began 13 years ago. Paul wanted to be so connected with us that he actually jumped on board without a salary and just assumed that we would do great things and he would benefit from it. To this day, he is still on that same plan and still part of the fabric at ETA. Paul, though not an owner, is also key to strategic thinking, strategic ideas, and part of our core now. Not always that way, but last year, a lot of things you're seeing from ETA, thoughts, ideas, are coming from Paul. So I think it's important that we get his opinion. Those of you who know Paul or work with Paul will know, and I won't have to explain it, that when it comes to being able to communicate with a customer at every level, from the IT all the way up to the C level, he is probably the best in his business, in this business, and it is all at this point self-taught. Paul has worked hard to make himself an expert and has done a tremendous job of guiding himself and creating his own value. Okay, Paul?
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody.
So let's ask Paul a question. Again, the whole spirit of Ed Talks is to give opinions, whether they're popular or not. So Paul, last week I asked Bill Quinlan a question. He answered the way he answered. I want to hear how you would answer it. But I'm always, as I travel, and I was just in Saratoga, New York, when I talk to MSPs and VARs, it's interesting how much people in our world are trying to convince them, and I don't know why we're convincing them and why they don't get it, that they should be leading and really embracing the connectivity with their customers as they want to drive their monthly revenue, as they want to do their core business. Somehow connectivity still becomes an oh, by the way. Do you know why that is, and what would your opinion be on that, to why that's crazy? Because that's crazy to us.
And I have, let's say, a few theories based on experience. I would say over the years, vendors that sold software IT services that might have needed, in fact, bandwidth to enable their services to be delivered to a customer might be in fear of the costs of those services, right, and could potentially get in the way of their sales. They viewed them, in fact, as potentially an obstacle instead of a place they could drive value in finding better solutions. And or they didn't want to take on the responsibility, or did they have the expertise to make recommendations or find connections to carriers to drive these solutions. So they focused on selling their core products, and this was really always on the periphery. I think the lost benefit or possibility there is that the connectivity is a place where you can really drive value for an organization. In today's world, with the convergence of voice and data services, it's really impossible for software-based and IT-based vendors to not be in the world of connectivity, to not be in the world of voice, or to turn an eye away from it. When you're talking about comprehensive strategies for organizations, and telecom and communications and IT strategies and cloud services, voice, data, they're all in the same place now, and it's really a conversation that has to be had if it's going to be had full spectrum. You can't leave it off the table. I think what some organizations might either be resistant or slow to recognize, that it's all one conversation, it's one piece of pie that we need to be dealing with here. The shame of it, that's a strong word, but the shame of it is that there's real opportunity to drive value for businesses in closely inspecting their connectivity. We've made, and I've made, a living and a career in driving value towards organizations, in delivering, whether it's more business redundant, maximum uptime, higher bandwidth, lower costing solutions, whatever the business's end game is, their intended outcome, we can help achieve that by looking at the connectivity as part of the overall big picture. For years, we made a history of helping cost-justify phone system purchases with more efficient connectivity designs. And that's something that is available in the IT space as well, to cost-justify managed services solutions and cloud-based solutions by being more efficient in how connectivity is delivered. The other thing is that in today's world, it's a really exciting time in connectivity because the access methods have widely exploded. From what used to be prevalent, copper technologies, now the proliferation of coaxial and fiber services, the amount of carriers lit into buildings has really changed the game. If a business hasn't had their access to their locations evaluated, they may not realize that there's a hugely valuable commodity or product that they could implement for their business that they don't realize they can even get because they haven't checked their addresses. So with this higher availability of these high bandwidth and redundant services, it really is just good form to find out what's available for companies and drive value. And I think that companies that are not bringing that discussion to the table are leaving value out of the equation when dealing with their clients.
Okay, all good points. And, people like things that are easy, right? We all like to work with people that are easy to do business with. So I'm an MSP, I'm a VAR. Everything you said is true. I'm not owning the connectivity. I'm steering away from it for whatever reason. I've had an experience that maybe didn't go good, and now I run away.
Or in some levels, it seems so commoditized. It seems so bandwidth for dollars that it seems thoughtless to me that anybody could just prescribe a solution, and really that is not the case. There is a tremendous amount of subtlety and variability within how carriers deliver their services.
So in your opinion, just your opinion to wrap it up, two things. A, what would I do immediately to change that mindset? And B, do you really believe that it can change their business and shape it? I mean, what's at stake if they don't?
Well, you're talking to a person whose entire income and well-being with his family is based on the power of the residual growth of a carrier revenue base that's been built over really 12, 13 years' time within this organization. And that would continue to scale as time goes on. It's meaningful to myself, it's meaningful to our organization, and it's predictable revenue that helps raise the floor and bring in dollars that can enable operation and growth within the company. Everybody believes in the power of predictable revenue, and this is a fantastic place to go and find it. Every business needs connectivity of one form or another. There's not a business that anybody's ever worked with that isn't paying a bill. There's a percentage of revenue that is on the table to be had. It's so closely integrated to the IT services that are being delivered anyway. It's I think, frankly, impossible to ignore.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up because we always try and keep these things short, and Justine's back there cutting us off. So, Paul, thank you very much for your opinion. And again, whether you do it with ETA or you don't, our mission is to bring subject matter expertise. If you're not a LINC partner and you want to be a LINC partner, when you get to do business with us, people like Paul are who interface with your customers. So it's a game changer. We make it easy for you to go have these conversations. You don't have to go on this mission alone. We ride the ride with you. And again, this is Ed Talks. Have a great day and see you next month. Take care.